Welcome to The Screen Queen, the show where I'll be talking about your favorite show or your favorite movie. You'll just have to find out what you're about to know. This is your Screen Queen, your host, Samantha Parrish. Hello there and welcome back to the show. This is your female Tarantino, your host, Samantha Parrish. Now, when we think of Sylvester Stallone, we know about his contribution to the action genre. In fact, we wouldn't really have what we have if it wasn't for the action movies that Stallone does. But would you ever think that the one movie that he talks about that he wishes got more recognition is a non-action movie role? And that it was good? And that it really held up and needed more recognition? Yes, I believe it. I've seen it. Copland came out in 1997, and this was supposed to be a game changer for Miramax Studios. They were looking for something new. The 90s was going hot for a lot of action movies, but not many cop movies. And unfortunately, this is supposed to be a double hit not just for Miramax, but for Stallone. His career hit a major slump after Rambo went on a little tiny hiatus, and he kept trying different action movies, and it just wasn't going, so wouldn't hurt to have a change of pace to do something that's a non-action movie role. But unfortunately, people just did not really want to see it. They wanted something more. But time has gone on since 1997, and people have looked at this film differently, and they're giving it the chance that it should have gotten back in 1997. With an all-star cast and a stellar script, this film can do no wrong. Even if it didn't make what it should have made back then in 1997, it does have a home these days in many people's hearts and minds for a film that seems to be a different type of cop movie. Why was this movie different than most cop movies? Well, you're about to find out. This is Copland. So for those out there that have never seen Copland, I'm going to go ahead and tell the plot to you because I don't want you to end up like the main character of the movie and be kept in the dark. That does not happen on this show. Copland follows Sheriff Freddie Heflin, a partially deaf sheriff that is essentially the protector and the order of Garrison, New Jersey. Across the water are other New York City police officers that have come and gone from New York City and over to New Jersey, making this bridge being the interconnection between New York City and New Jersey. However, something happened the other cross of the water that has been brought to New Jersey, and it's brought to his attention that there is a mob connection going on with the New York City police officers. And now Sheriff Freddie Heflin is stuck in a bind, knowing that the corruption is running thicker than he thinks, wondering how long he's been kept in the dark, and how long has it been since the people he's worked with all of his life have not been the people he thought they were. This movie has a special place in my heart for being my prize movie. Back in July, when I was republishing my book series Inglorious Inc., throughout the entire week of July, this DVD sat on my vanity, and I'm like, I'm gonna get you soon. Come Friday, you're mine. And this was a film that I've been wanting to watch for a very long time. A lot of my friends know that I'm baloney for the Stallone. That is one of my favorite actors, and shit, when Friday came up and I republished my book and I got my victory meal and I got to watch the movie, all I could think of is, where has this movie been my entire life? And I don't say that about many films, but there's something about Copland that I had to think about with why this cop film feels different than the other cop movies. Because if you think about it, procedural films, they're a dime a dozen. On TV, on the big screen, anywhere. Cop films feel generic. You just have like a blueprint for what kind of cop characters you want to have, what kind of villains you want to have, what kind of generic crime you want to have, and then, yeah, maybe sprinkle some actual law information in there because, you know, sometimes that comes up and sometimes it doesn't come up because people want to see the action. Except here's the thing. It's not an action movie, and it's actually great for that. So when we think of our action heroes, we always remember that their origin is being a law enforcement officer. Officer John McClane, Sergeant Martin Riggs, Sergeant Murtaugh. And, it's wonderful being able to see them save the day. I love my action movies, but at the same time, when you're watching these police officer characters, we coin them as the action heroes. And we kind of forget that they're law enforcement characters for a moment because we get caught up in the action. Rarely do we get a law enforcement character that's not an action hero. I can't think of any on top of my head of a character that is in law enforcement, but isn't known for taking a machine gun and going to the top of a building barefoot, or getting in a ragtag team with someone else and a 48-hour time limit to go do something and save the day. We rarely get that because it's driven by the action. And this film isn't driven by the action, it's driven by the mystery, which makes it a very compelling crime movie. And it really does feed into the crime drama and makes it very enigmatic almost. Because this film is technically a film noir. One of the few films that we got near the end of the 90s that was taking the noir genre and making it revamped in the 90s with neo-noir. But there's a very important reason to remember while watching this film why this film feels so real is because it comes from real stories. There is a disclaimer that the director of Copland states that this is not a true story, but he did go on to say that the creation of Copland comes from the stories that he heard from the kids that he was around in his area. He grew up with a lot of kids that all had parents in law enforcement. So we got to hear the stories from them about what their dad did today, or what their grandpa did today, or what their mom did today. And all those stories were sprinkled into Copland. A lot of the moments in Copland really do feel real with real people because it comes from the stories of those kids. And who better? I mean, they were seen as heroes. You really got to see these characters breathe in their environment, how they work in their environment. And what better than those stories that James Mangold got when he was a kid? It fits perfectly with the story. But there's something that doesn't really fit in the story, and strangely, bizarrely enough, that's the law enforcement itself. It sounds absolutely strange to say that, but there are two major elements in this law enforcement story that are not accurate. And what I found out is so crazy and so strange, and it really hurts because I love my law enforcement shows. But I've also had to learn that law enforcement shows are not going to depict what actually happens. And you end up finding this out on your own about what really works. One of those things in Copland that doesn't work is actually seen throughout the whole film. The uniform. The uniform that the sheriff that Stallone wears in the film is not actually what the sheriff or his deputies would wear. So you got the wrong uniform flat out. Kind of a weird little thing, but I wouldn't have thought about that if it wasn't explained to me by the research that I found, and it gets even better. So, let's look at the plot of Copland. The whole plot is driven by having the New Jersey police officers and the affiliation with the New York police officers, and how that becomes a twilight zone of what the other people don't know, and having to distrust the people that you work with that are supposed to protect and uphold the law, and they don't. It's a great plot, great movie. However, New York police officers cannot live outside of New York City. It is stated at the end of the film. So at least there was an awareness that was brought to the audiences at the very end, so that way they know, hey, we messed up here. We know this is not exactly how it's supposed to work, and I can read for you word for word for what it is said. And as we are talking, I'm pulling it up on IMDb so I can, there it is, I can get it for you. It says here, this film is a work of fiction. It is currently illegal for New York City police officers to live outside the state of New York. But it's not just that. With that stated, there's a big thing about how Copland doesn't work for the center of its plot. That sounds kind of strange. Where Copland takes place is in Garrison, New Jersey, the fictional created town for New Jersey. Realistically, you would not have a sheriff's department in an individual town. Sheriff's departments are only meant for counties. And that makes sense, and I understand that because I live in a county. So that makes 100% sense that it doesn't make sense in the movie. It hurts me to say that because truly, I love this film. And it's taken some time to get some certain things perfected and accurate for a movie, and it's just baby steps. I still love the film regardless, despite all the stuff happening, just like many films that we love, that we can forgive 1 or 2, 3 little things that happen in the film that wouldn't happen in real life. But the saving grace is definitely the film stating that there are some things that are inaccurate, and they understand that. Thank you for coming to my PSA about law enforcement. Now we're going to go back to our regularly programmed movie trivia love. And the next part I want to talk about is the cast of the film. So I got to start off by talking about the man that I can't shut up about, and that is Sylvester Stallone. And last month, when Sylvester Stallone was promoting his new show, Tulsa King, he was on Fox News, and the anchors were absolutely fangirling over him. They were just sitting there on the couch like, if I touch him, I'm never going to wash my hand again. And one of the anchors asked him, what is the one film that he wishes more people knew about or would know him for better? And without a doubt, he said, I really enjoyed Copland. And I sat there on the couch watching that interview, and having watched Copland myself, I'm like, I 100% agree. And I'm actually kind of surprised that Stallone isn't known for this movie. The character he plays in Copland is an imperfect character, but it's a perfect imperfect character. There are many flawed heroes that we get that rise above, and they kind of perfect their flaws. And this is a character that's not really out to perfect his flaws. He's a partially deaf character that wasn't given the best slice of life. He didn't really get everything that he wanted in life. But he's a humble character. He's a vulnerable character. He's the person that you want to save the day because he is someone you believe in. Just like how you believed in Stallone when he played Rocky Balboa. He was the guy that was going to do everything he could within his bounds, given his opportunities. And Rocky did go on to perfect a couple of things, but he was still the same old Rocky that we know and love. Just like Freddie Heflin. There wasn't a major change. He didn't dramatically change his life. He's still a sheriff by the end of it all. Hate to spoil it for you, but then again, Copland's got a Copland, and he's got to be a cop at the end of the movie. Otherwise, how's the title going to uphold? So in a way, Copland is sort of like a callback to how we first saw Stallone. And that's the way that we've always seen him. No matter what action roles he's always been, he's always going to be the guy that we can root for. But honestly, as much as I love Stallone, Ray Liotta is my favorite part of the whole movie. I feel like I'm hurting myself for saying that, but looking at this movie, it makes me realize how much I miss Ray Liotta. Ray Liotta could read the menu with such volition that it'll make me think I've never known what food is until he mentions it off the menu. The way that Ray Liotta plays Gary Figgis is like the cream of the crop when it comes to neo-noir characters. You could throw a dart and you'll hit a character that represents neo-noir, but the way that he plays a neo-noir character is perfect for the genre because he's someone that you trust, but then you also don't know if you should trust him. Throughout the entire duration of the film, you've seen this man go from being compassionate to cunning to emotionally responsive to destroyed. He is a very layered character. That he's someone that you still trust in these certain moments, but then you also know when not to trust him. You also don't know how far the corruption goes as the further you go into the film, that you can't even trust the people that Freddie Heflin trusts. That's what truly made Ray Liotta one of our finest actors. And it's one of the films, just like with Stallone, wishing that people knew him more for Copland. I wish people knew Ray Liotta more for Copland. But I do find it absolutely hysterical, and I've known about this, and I've seen this for all of my years since I've known about Copland, is having Ray Liotta and Robert De Niro in this film. I'm like, okay, alright, I see you, Goodfellas reunion. That's why I joke and call this film Goodfellas 2.0 by having two of the people from one of the most famous mafia movies. And I do have to say, with Robert De Niro in this film, I was kind of surprised that he didn't take over this film. There are scenes that he has with Harvey Keitel, and even the scenes that he has with Stallone don't feel like he's taking over the screen, and that's pretty easy for Robert De Niro to do. All he has to do is scream with volition, and then boom, you forgot everyone else is in the room because you're paying attention to him. But he's not the focus of the movie, which makes it work. The scenes he has with Stallone don't feel that De Niro is taking it away from Stallone because they're kind of on opposite spectrums of the way that they are as actors. And having them together, it works. I really buy them as cops trying to work together, but also not seeing eye to eye with each other. Really, it's an amazing performance to see both of them together as like two top-tier actors in Hollywood. But I think the biggest takeaway I have from the cast of this film is Robert Patrick. And I find that hysterical that this is the second time I've talked about him on this show. I don't know why he's not known for this movie, because he, on a scale of 1 to 10, he's like an 11 in his energy department. When he auditioned for this film, I often wonder if the casting director said, listen, what you did for Die Hard 2 being a villain, and then the malicious energy that you had for Terminator 2, can you just put both of those together? That'd be great, because that's what it feels like. It feels like the kind of villains that he played at the beginning of the 90s, and they took every single cliche for every bad cop and just put it in his character. And I'm like, shit, no wonder he feels like so much. He feels like so many characters. But yet, he doesn't take away from the film, but it's honestly kind of funny to see how much he takes over some of the scenes. I mean, shoot, he was just rising up in the ladder, and here he is taking away scenes from Ray Liotta, taking away scenes from Stallone. All I see is Robert Patrick. When I watched this movie with my friend Evan, oh my gosh, it just absolutely baffled and entertained my friend, who just could not believe the energy that Robert Patrick had in this film. He just kept saying, Robert Patrick, I need to take your energy away from an 11 and bring it down a couple of notches. As much as Robert Patrick brings his all, and I do love him in this movie, but it is so entertaining to see him play this kind of bad guy in the film. It like outdoes his other bad guys, and that's a tough title to give to someone that's known for playing the bad guy in Terminator 2. This is one of those rare movies that you see with a cast that you make a lot of connections to other places. This is like one of those connect-the-dot movies that you know Copland connects to other pieces of media. And surprisingly, a lot of that exists within the movie. A majority of this cast went on to The Sopranos. They listed off several actors that went on to go star in the Mafia television show. You see one of them in the very beginning scene of Copland. It starts out with Edie Falco and Ray Liotta at the table together. That's like the ultimate Mafia crossover of having the wife of Tony Soprano and Henry Hill of Goodfellas at the same table. What more could you ask for? Oh my goodness. It might might not be the be-all, end-all scenes, but shit, if you're like a fan of The Sopranos and a fan of Goodfellas, that's like the ultimate scene right there for many people. So, I want to go back to Stallone for a moment. I know. When have we not talked about Stallone in this movie? But this is a different point I want to make. Stallone is not a romantic leading man. And he has had his fair share of some romantic moments. I mean, shit, that's how we got introduced to him, was him being the underdog boxer that is with the shy girl. And the way that they've had their dynamic over the course of the next Rocky movies. But outside of Rocky, he hasn't really had any characters that are able to have what Rocky and Adrian had. You're never going to have the same thing, but nothing really kind of matched that. Or was even close to matching it. I mean, he tried with Rambo Part 2 and had a bit of a nice relationship, but it wasn't really molded enough to really buy the romance in that film. And he tried again with Cobra, and that that was not very good considering it was his ex-wife in the movie. Oh, that did not end well. And then The Specialist is a movie that, well, wasn't very special. And then there's Copland. And I think it's got one of the best lines that I've heard in a long time, and I've heard my fair share of romantic lines. But it works in a different way. So let me set the scene up for you. Freddie Heflin gets a late-night visitor, and it's the girl that has been mentioned for a majority of the film, that it's the woman that should have been with him. But unfortunately, it didn't turn out that way, and he accepts that it didn't turn out that way because of the way that her life went and the way his life went. Just one of those tough ordeals where it's like you can't change the past, you can't try to change things for the future, you do what you can in the present. And in the present, she comes to him knowing that he knows everything that's going on, and she just wants someone to talk to. Someone that understands what's going on and won't tell her how to feel or how to think. And Freddie's the kind of person that will not deprive someone of their emotions, of what they're going through. That yes, he might know everything going on, but he might not know the whole story, and he wants someone to get their story out. He's an amazing, compassionate character. And she talks about how her marriage is essentially over, that the man she thought she married is not the person who it turned out to be, which is unfortunate for a lot of women. I would know. I was definitely one of those women that had no idea what they were getting into something and thought their person was going to change, and then they didn't. And after she's done telling Freddie everything going on, she asks him, "Freddie, how come you never got married?" And he pauses. And he says, "Because all the best girls were taken." Now, that line has so much cheese, it could give someone lactose intolerance. But there's something different about that line that sets it apart from other romantic lines. It's not sweeping, it's not this grand romantic gesture, it's an honest line. We've had our fair share of many romantic lines, like, "You complete me," "I'll never let go, Jack," "I will find you." This isn't like a grand sweeping dramatic line, it's just a vulnerable line. Someone that just wants to tell the other person how they feel in their own way without having to make things go in a certain direction. And I love that for the line. There's nothing like a romantic end game out of it. And it's rare that we get those lines that doesn't make it have to be that it's going to be going towards a major romantic turn. And if you were to have romance in a Stallone movie that's heavily action-based, it's probably why romance doesn't really work in other Stallone action movies, because there's no room for a moment like that to breathe, to take it in, to see that and how it will affect their characters. And it has a nice amount of time that you can let that moment sink in for the confidence it took for Freddie to have to say something that he's been waiting to say for probably about 15 years. It is probably one of the best romantic lines that I've seen in my entire history of being a movie buff. It's a line that I wish we had more of, and like I said, it works because it feels like a real line because it comes from a person that feels real, filled with characters that feel real. Everyone in this movie feels like someone that you know. We've all known someone like Freddie Heflin, or we have had moments like Freddie Heflin. So even though Stallone is not like the best guy when it comes to romance, he really did make this line work. There's something interesting to look at with this film, is the fact that it's a cop movie that has a big impact in the sensory department. I never thought that I would ever see the day to say that a procedural drama thriller gave me the most sensory experience than something that could have been a sci-fi movie or an action movie, but the sensory involvement really does carry the film in the final act. So, as a heads up, this is a spoiler warning. We're going to spoiler territory, so if you've never seen this gem of a movie, go get that time code down there and go skip ahead so you don't spoil yourself, okay? Alright, cool. Awesome. Thank you. So it's been known throughout a majority of the film that Freddie Heflin is deaf in one ear due to an accident. And this moment is motion throughout a majority of the film where people talk into the wrong ear, and he has to turn around and go, It's a nice little callback where you don't really have to say that he's deaf, but it's the mannerisms and actions that Stallone gives to the character for how he's had to live without full hearing. And then near the end of the film, when he is taking the witness, Souperboy, to the other side of the water, and unfortunately an ambush happens and the bad guys shoot out his good ear. Now, out of all the characters we've ever had, that is the most gut-wrenching thing, knowing that the hero that automatically has a disadvantage has an even higher disadvantage without having what he heavily relies upon taken away just like that. But we've had many heroes that do go through a severe injury and they make it back out on top and they can get through it. But this is such a personal injury that is done on purpose to people that know he's deaf and do that. It just automatically makes you despise the people even more for their lack of justice and for what they're willing to do to someone else. It's that personal jab to do to someone, especially it's someone that they've known their entire life. It's like that level of scuzz that just makes your blood boil. Really does drive these characters into so many different layers that make them feel than your avant-garde bad guys that you usually see in a lot of crime movies. So, what does Freddie Heflin do? He does what any sheriff would do. He goes to get justice. And this is justice in his own way, and that is kind of forgivable that you are going to have your main character go beyond the law to go get the witness back, but this feels different because, again, it's not driven by action, it's driven by thrill. It's a man running on fumes, and you hear exactly what he hears. If they filmed this scene with complete hearing, you wouldn't be able to really get the thrilling moment of this film, but knowing that what you hear in the film is exactly what Freddy is hearing, it automatically ups the danger that he's having to rely upon his other senses of looking around the best he can to see what he can't hear. And he's going after a majority of bad guys, so you know someone's going to get the upper hand in him, but God help him if he's not going to try. He's stumbling through this neighborhood with a shotgun and blood coming out of his ear, and he just is determined to get Souperboy back. And it's absolutely remarkable to see that. That's truly what sets Freddie Heflin's character as a true hero among the other characters that are known for being action heroes. They both save the day in their own way, but Freddie Heflin does it in a way different than the other action heroes we've ever gotten in the 90s. And it's amazing to have to see something like that. It's such a tote thriller for that moment right there. Just because we don't hear anything, it automatically ups attention. It's such a simple thing, which really makes this such an amazing film that takes away something to give us something in return. I'm so glad that this has become a part of my collection. It's one of the best movies that I have seen in a long time. It's like one of my 2 top movies of 2022. Before I officially close out the episode about Copland, I have one more story for you, and I hope this lives with you the way that this moment has lived with me, and how I can't watch Copland the same way now. I mentioned my friend Evan earlier that was ranting about Robert Patrick, and during this scene where Freddie Heflin finds the character Souperboy in a water tower, and he looks around and he sees a lot of the stuff that Souperboy has had to use to be able to hole up in the tower. There's cans of soup everywhere, he's in a sleeping bag, he's got a little bit of items everywhere, and then Evan puts his hand on my shoulder and just goes, Souperboy. And of course for a second I'm like, yeah, that's his character name. But then I'm like, wait a minute. I gotta use my detective skills. There's a reason behind this joke, and once it hit me, I laughed so hard and so ruckusly. The cans of soup everywhere, and his name is Souperboy. Souperboy. Oh my god. I can't watch that scene the same way again. Like, Evan didn't ruin the scene for me, but he made it 10 times better for me than it ever was. The timing was impeccable. And I love him for that. It was majestic. It's those moments that you get with a friend or a loved one that make this movie 10 times more special than it originally was, and now Copland has an even better reason for me to watch it now, that I have an eternal joke to look at during that scene. You're never gonna get a cop movie like Copland. Something that gives you people that you feel like you know. Something that really does draw the line between what you know as an officer and then having to go against what you know as an officer when you feel like the people that you work with are not working with the law. You can make a dime a dozen of many different cop movies, but you're never gonna get one like Copland. And that is officially a wrap on the Copland episode. I gotta say, I'm exhausted. Whew, this was really fun to be able to talk about one of my new favorite movies, and to get to share that on here is amazing. And I love that this became the first episode of 2023. Thank you so much for enduring the abundance of enthusiasm in this episode. So now the time has come to find out what the next episode is going to be on the Screen Queen. Here we go. So let's see. Let me get my suggestions mixed up real good in this one. Here we go. Okay, alright, I got one. Are you fucking shitting me? There's a theme going on here, and I'm gonna go with it. And I'm okay with that. Okay. The next episode is going to be Beverly Hills Cop. Alrighty, there we go. Oh my god. I could feel the enthusiasm automatically. Oh my goodness. Wow. Okie dokie. Thank you all so much for the support of the show. It is amazing to see this show grow and grow and grow, and to see that it's growing every single day. You have no idea how much that means to me to see the success of this show. And I can't wait to bring new episodes to you all every Thursday and Sunday. But in between episodes, if you just want to say hi, you want to let me know your thoughts about the show, or you want to let me know about a movie recommendation that you would love to see as an episode on the show one day, you can catch up with me on my Instagram at the Queen of the Screen. And side note, I accidentally messed up my username handle, and I had no idea that I accidentally put out incorrect information, so that's my bad. I am so sorry. And you can also catch up with me on my TikTok at the Mystical Space Witch. Alrighty, you all take care, stay amazing, and I'll be back with another episode. This is your Screen Queen, signing off. Bye-bye!